Hey everyone, my name is Nikki Young, and this is Serial Napper, the true crime podcast for naps. I'm back with another true crime story to lull you to sleep or perhaps to give you nightmares. It was the morning of February 26, 2024, and it was supposed to be a day like any other. At around 6 a.m., Katie Proudfoot walked into the bedroom of her 15-year-old son, Sebastian Rogers, in order to wake him up for school. To her shock, she found his room empty and he was gone. Not in his room and nowhere to be found elsewhere in their Tennessee home. Yes, Sebastian was a teenager and, of course, sometimes they can be notorious for sneaking out or leaving without telling their parents where they're going. But in Sebastian's case, his absence was particularly alarming. Sebastian is a bright young man, but he also has high-functioning autism and he wasn't known to ever leave the house on his own. Katie called her husband, Sebastian's stepfather, who was working out of town at the time, and he alerted the police to their missing son. Both state and local authorities, as well as search parties spearheaded by Sebastian's father, Seth Rogers, have utilized drones, helicopters, and canine to try to locate the teen. But it has been months without any sign of Sebastian. With no obvious signs of foul play, it begs the question, how can a 15-year-old run away leaving absolutely no trail behind? We're going to talk through the timeline, the searches, and a possible recent sighting of Sebastian with the hope that someone out there knows something that might help to bring him home. So let's jump right in. Sebastian Rogers was born on December 7, 2009, the same day as his paternal grandfather's birthday. For the first 6 months of his life, he was often sick and was in and out of the hospital. The medical bills were piling up, so his mother, Katie, decided to join the Navy so that she'd have a stable income and health insurance, while his father, Seth, became a stay-at-home dad. Pretty early on, Sebastian's parents noticed that there was something different about him. He was an energetic little boy who quickly learned that he could crawl around to get just about anywhere he was going, but he struggled with his speech and his fine motor skills. Ultimately, it would be learned that Sebastian was born with a rare genomic condition known as chromosome 6q27 deletion. According to the National Institute of Health, this condition can, quote, result in intellectual disability, facial dysmorphism, and organ dysfunctions. Sebastian would also be diagnosed as autistic, and of course, autism is a spectrum, and Sebastian was high functioning. His mother noted that sometimes Sebastian would hit and bite himself and throw himself to the ground. He also struggled to communicate in social situations. He didn't really understand what was appropriate and not appropriate to talk about. This didn't stop him from attending school and going to class with peers his own age. He was incredibly bright. He just learned differently. And he was even about to receive an award for his work with the Future Farmers of America just before he went missing. Sebastian also had sensory issues, very common with neurodivergent people, and he hated getting his hands dirty. He was also a picky eater who refused to eat meat during his younger years, but eventually he came around to enjoying chicken nuggets. He also loved vegetables and oatmeal, sushi, tofu, and everything breakfast. Sebastian enjoyed playing video games like Modern Warfare. He enjoyed cooking, building things with his Legos, and fishing with his dad, though he refused to touch the slimy fish, and I get it. While Sebastian was very much a loved little boy, the love was lost between his parents Seth and Katie, and they divorced. It's alleged that the divorce was a messy one. His mother would remarry a man named Chris Proudfoot, who became Sebastian's stepfather and had a daughter of his own that he brought to the relationship. Despite no longer parenting together, Katie and Seth would share custody of Sebastian, with Seth having custody of him every other weekend and on holiday breaks. But for the most part, Sebastian lived in Tennessee at the home of his mother and his stepfather. February 25th, 2024 would be the last time that Seth spoke to his son. They had a 2.5-minute phone conversation the day before Sebastian went missing. Seth would later say, quote, "It was a normal Thursday, and I called him at about 3:30. He was already home from school. It was a typical conversation like ones that they had had before. He asked his son how his day was, how school was going, and if he had any homework. Then he told him that he loved him before saying goodbye for the last time. According to his mother, Katie, a few hours after that, they had gone out for dinner together. Her husband, Chris, didn't join them because he was away all weekend in Memphis, Tennessee, about 3.5 hours away. Chris worked as a crane operator and he had a job on a construction project at St. Jude's Hospital. By this time, Katie had left the Navy and she was working as an installation technician, which allowed her to stay closer to home. Sebastian and his mom returned home after dinner, and at around 9 p.m., Katie tells Sebastian that it's time to go to bed. He's got school in the morning. About an hour later, at around 10 p.m., Katie said she heard a thud noise coming from her son's room. She didn't go up to check on him, but she called out to Sebastian, and he responded. Then she yelled to him that it's time to go to sleep. That would be the last time that she would hear her son's voice. Katie says that she stays up until midnight talking to her husband on the phone, but she's getting tired and she's starting to fall asleep, so he tells her to take the dogs and to go to bed. She puts the dog in their kennel for the evening, and then she goes to sleep in the master bedroom, which is located on the opposite end of the house as Sebastian's room. The next morning, Katie goes to her son's bedroom to get him up for school at around 6 a.m., but he's not in his room. She searched the rest of the house for Sebastian, but he's nowhere to be found in the house. All of his shoes are still by the front door, so wherever he went, he did it barefoot. His Nintendo Switch and his phone were left behind. The only thing that appeared to be missing was a yellow flashlight that Sebastian was known to play with, so perhaps he went out into the night with this flashlight in hand. Katie called her husband Chris on the phone to tell him Sebastian is missing and she can't find him anywhere. And Chris is the one to call the authorities.
I just want my baby to be okay. I don't know where he's at. Pretty normal. He was playing in his room. When I told him to go to bed, he did. He said, "Good night, Mom, I love you." And he's not a runner. He's never run away before. I don't know why. I don't know why he walked out that door.
At approximately 11:17 a.m. that Monday morning, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation issues an endangered child alert, which states that Sebastian was last seen wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, and glasses. A massive search for Sebastian, including more than 200 searchers, is launched, and they use every tool in their tool belt, including canine units, mounted officers, drones, and helicopters. Sebastian is not the kind of child to run away or to leave home on his own. It's just something that he wouldn't do. So the next day, authorities changed the alert to an Amber Alert. When an Amber Alert is issued, it means that the police believe that the child is in immediate danger and possibly could have been abducted. Investigators asked residents living in Sebastian's neighborhood if they could check their security cameras and doorbell cams to see if maybe they could have captured anything. One neighbor does come forward with something interesting that their security camera captured in the early hours of February 26th at around 3:10 a.m. This particular camera points towards the back of Sebastian's home in a common area. It's really dark and grainy and difficult to make out exactly what is in this video, particularly because their neighborhood doesn't have any street lights. What is seen on the video is two specks of light that appear to be people holding flashlights. You can't actually see the people or make out who they are. You just kind of see these two specks of lights bouncing around in the dark. This is interesting to investigators because, again, they believe Sebastian left home with a flashlight in hand. However, this tip has never been confirmed to be Sebastian, so we don't know if this has anything to do with his disappearance. Could it have been someone with Sebastian? Did Sebastian leave home with someone else carrying a flashlight? His father, Seth, is almost certain that his son wouldn't just go with a stranger or get into a vehicle unless he knew the person. Sebastian was known to be very skeptical of new people. Unfortunately, the police didn't have a whole lot to go on. There weren't any signs of a struggle at the house or of foul play. The search dogs that they utilized hadn't even been able to pick up a scent trail. 4 days into the search, the police decide to drain a pond which is located just east of Sebastian's home, but they don't find anything. While Sebastian's biological father, Seth, was boots on the ground, assisting with every search effort, the public quickly began to scrutinize the behavior of Sebastian's mom, Katie, and stepdad, Chris. Most notably, Chris and Katie didn't appear to be helping with any of the search efforts. In fact, they had left town and were now staying in an RV camper. Stepdad Chris had to go back to work, and his wife Katie decided to go be with him during that time. I don't want to judge the decisions made by a mother who is legitimately missing their child, but I do know that if one of my children ever went missing, I would not stop looking for a single second. I don't think I would be able to sleep knowing that they were just out there somewhere and I was sitting at home. But to be fair, the Proudfoots said that they left town because of all of the threats that they were receiving and speculation around their possible involvement in Sebastian's disappearance. They just didn't want to deal with it.
You're not in this situation. You don't quite understand. I wish people would step back, take a different wide open view, and not assume what they know. It's just better to stick to the facts. Mom, myself, and the father have worked very fully and cooperatively with all agencies across the board. We have anything that they've wanted, we have provided.
It's important to note that law enforcement has said both Katie and Chris have been cooperative throughout this investigation. But that didn't stop the court of public opinion from pointing their finger directly at the couple, particularly when it came out that there was a CPS report from a few years before Sebastian went missing involving him and his stepdad. According to the Proudfoots, there was a situation where Sebastian was caught lying, and his stepdad swatted his butt with a belt. Do with that information what you will. Sebastian never told anyone that he was being abused at his mother and stepfather's home, but his bio dad, Seth, claimed that shortly before he went missing, Sebastian told him that he didn't want to go back to his mother's house. He wouldn't say why, just that he didn't want to go back there. I'm not suggesting that Sebastian Rogers was being abused, and I'm not inferring that his mother and stepfather are involved in his disappearance. I'm just telling you what has been said about their living arrangements. On March 7th, the police decide to search the landfill in White Plains, Kentucky as a precautionary measure. This is where the trash from the Proudfoot's home would have been taken, so they want to see if there's anything there that might be helpful in determining what happened to Sebastian. They don't find anything useful, and the search for Sebastian is scaled back. Investigators really don't have much to go on. The United Cajun Navy joins the search efforts, but their help is short-lived. They have to pull out due to threats made to their volunteers, which I can't understand. Like, what kind of threats are being made to volunteers who are helping to search for a missing boy? They shared a statement, and I'll read a portion of it here for you now. Anyone who deliberately impedes the investigation and search for Sebastian Rogers will automatically be considered a person of interest, especially when we know those individuals have extensive criminal records. We are finalizing some intel that we will be turning over to law enforcement, and then we will begin the process of exposing those who actively tried to stop this search. These people are dangerous criminals, and the good people in and around Sumner County have a right to know about the evil embedded in their community. That is powerful and wild. And honestly, I look forward to hearing more. Sebastian's father, Seth, has also said that he's had people trying to stop him from searching for his son, even intimidating him and his team of volunteers. There have even been people taking down flyers and posters with Sebastian's face on it. Why? Like, what is the motive there? Is there a reason that these people don't want Sebastian to be found? Almost a month later, investigators announced that they have found a pair of glasses that they believe may have belonged to Sebastian. These glasses looked like the ones that Sebastian always wore, but ultimately this piece of evidence is ruled out as belonging to Sebastian, so it's another dead end. I can't imagine how incredibly frustrating it must be for Sebastian's parents to have so little evidence pointing to what happened to their son. It's wild to think that this 15-year-old teenage boy was able to leave home in the middle of the night and not leave behind a single clue. In mid-April, Sebastian's biodad Seth decides to take matters into his own hands, and he hires his own private investigators. Sadly, he's really working alone in these efforts, and he says that his ex-wife and her husband, they haven't had any communication with him. And that's heartbreaking. Their divorce was allegedly tumultuous, but if there was ever a time to come together, it's when your baby is missing. The lack of progress in this case is maddening. Then, just a couple of weeks ago, a photo pops up online, and it appears to show Sebastian Rogers at a park in North Carolina. Now, if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, you're obviously not going to be able to see the photo, but I will post it on my Facebook. It is crazy how much the teenage boy in this photo looks just like Sebastian. His father, Seth, even claimed that, in his opinion, this was Sebastian. The location of this park is about 6 hours away from where the boy went missing. The woman who took the photo also thought that this person looked like Sebastian, and that's why she took it. She said she gave the photo to TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, but when she didn't hear back from them, she decided to post the photo online. When Seth saw the photo, he drove to the park, and he asked them if he could see any surveillance video footage that they had from the day that the photo was taken. But according to him, they said they couldn't show it to him because it was an active investigation. Well, Seth would say that he didn't recognize the clothing or the shoes that the teen in the photo was wearing. They could have been new. Unfortunately, just days ago, law enforcement released a statement saying that after careful investigation, the boy in the photo is not Sebastian Rogers. The boy's mother has come forward to identify the picture as her son, so it's not Sebastian after all. And just like that, one of the best potential leads in this case is squashed. Sebastian's mother, Katie, has said that she believes someone has taken her son. In an interview on Crime Stories with Nancy Grace, she said, quote, "I feel like if he had been close to the house or had walked off, that we would have found him by now with as many people as have been searching." Katie also said that she has taken and passed a lie detector test, but that her husband and Sebastian's stepfather, Chris, had not taken one yet. Chris told Nancy Grace, "I have offered and volunteered on many occasions to take a polygraph, but I was told directly by law enforcement that because of my whereabouts, I did not need one." Remember, he was away at a job site the weekend that Sebastian disappeared. He was about 3 hours away from the home, which I assume could be backed up with evidence like cell phone records. Nancy Grace asked him if he would complete one if she set it up for him, and he said yes, but it's unclear if he's actually taken her up on that offer. His statement also contradicts another one of his comments that he posted on Facebook, where he says that he actually has taken a test and he passed it. I don't know what the truth is here, but neither of them has been named a suspect in Sebastian's disappearance, and it's important to keep that in mind. We can speculate all day, but law enforcement has even gone as far as to say that there isn't even any evidence that something criminal had happened to Sebastian. As a side note, Sebastian's biodad, Seth, has in fact taken a polygraph test and he has passed. This summer, Seth was going to take full-time custody of Sebastian, where he was going to begin online schooling, which would have been a more effective method of learning for him. But now, Seth is tirelessly searching for his teenage son, who hasn't been seen or heard from since the night of February 25th, when he went to bed at his mother's home in Tennessee. There is no indication that he is no longer with us, but there is no indication that he is still with us. So the search continues.
I'm hoping he's still alive. You know, that's my main hope right now, is that he's not deceased. I mean, I keep praying that he's alive. I keep praying that somebody's going to see him, that somebody's going to call 911. And if somebody has him, you need to give him back. He's my son, and he doesn't belong to nobody, but damn it, he's mine. And he's mine.
Anyone with information about Sebastian Rogers' whereabouts is asked to contact the Sumner County Emergency Communication Center at 615-451-3838 or the TBI at 1-800-TBI-FIND. That's it for me tonight. If you want to reach out, you can find me on Facebook at Serial Napper. I also have a Serial Napper true crime discussion group. It's called Serial Society, and I'll have the link in my show notes. I'd love to chat with you about this case and all of the other cases I cover, plus everything else true crime. You can find my audio on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. I post all of my episodes in video format over on YouTube, so go check it out. And if you're watching on YouTube, I would love if you can give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I'm over on X, formerly known as Twitter, at serial_napper, and I even post things on TikTok, Serial Napper Nick, and that's all one word. Until next time, sweet dreams, stay kind, especially in the comments. Bye.